Hello, good morning. Welcome to Introduction to Philosophy again. So this week we will be looking at the topic of philosophy of mind. So I'm going to have you, as you have probably noticed, instead of having you read things from the textbook, I'm actually having you read a couple of articles that are posted on Moodle. I hope you will read them if you haven't already done so. They are actually they are not always the easiest articles to read, but I think they are really interesting, and there are some examples in there that are really compelling. So I should say the aim of this video is to give you an introduction to philosophy of mind or philosophy of consciousness, and give you a brief overview of what the main problems are in philosophy of mind, and how they relate to all the other things that we have studied so far. So maybe the easiest way to understand what philosophy of mind is about, or what the central problems are, is to go back to Descartes. You might remember from a couple of weeks ago in the video that I made about Descartes. You might remember that Descartes' view of the duality of substance, mind and body, actually gives rise to a couple of intractable problems. The first problem is the interaction of mind, the problem of the interaction of mind and body. Sometimes we usually just call it the mind-body problem. And the second problem is the problem of other minds. You will see that in philosophy of mind or philosophy of consciousness, the philosophy of mind or philosophy of consciousness basically inherits and deals with the same kinds of problems that Descartes has left us. And you will see that there is, at the present, still no satisfactory solution to these two problems, especially the problem of the mind and body. To begin with, let's just start with Descartes' mind-body problem. So you might recall from that video about Descartes that the mind-body problem consists of one central question, which is the question of how can mind and body possibly interact with each other if they are such totally different and diametrically opposed substances. How can they possibly interact with each other if they have nothing in common with each other at all? Actually, with philosophy of mind, in philosophy of mind, the problem actually is taken one step further. The question is this: given that everything that we know about the world comes to us through the physical things that we encounter, given that everything that we know about the world comes to us through the physical sciences. By physical sciences, I mean chemistry, biology, and physics. So given that everything that we know about the world comes to us through the physical sciences, how can we possibly know anything about the nature of consciousness? So there is a sort of, you can see that there is a parallel problem here that is very similar to the mind-body problem. Well, it is the mind-body problem actually in a modern form. So the problem is this: on the one hand, we are very sure that we are conscious beings, or at least I am very sure that I am a conscious being. I'm conscious, I have conscious experiences, I have thoughts and feelings, and I see the world from this subjective point of view. Or if nothing else, I know what it is like to be me, a conscious being that is seeing the world in this subjective point of view kind of way. But on the other hand, everything that I know about the world comes to me through the physical sciences, chemistry, physics, and biology. So given that everything that I know about the world comes to me through the physical sciences, and that everything that I know about the world is objective in nature in this way, how can I possibly know anything about the nature of consciousness? So there are really two problems here. The first problem is, how can consciousness possibly be explained in physical terms? And the second problem is, how do I know that there are other consciousnesses out there like me, if there is no way for me to ever know what it is like for me to be those other consciousnesses? So people who work in contemporary philosophy of mind have basically taken two main positions with regards to this problem, this mind-body problem. One position that people have, some philosophers have taken is the position called physicalism. When you read Thomas Nagel's paper, which is posted on Moodle, you will see that this term physicalism is sometimes also rendered as materialism or reductionism. If that happens, when you see that, do not be confused. For the purposes of this course, we can just assume that physicalism, materialism, and reductionism, they all refer to basically the same thing. So physicalism is the view that all correct information and facts about the universe consist only in information and facts from the physical, chemical, and biological sciences. The idea is that everything we need to know about the universe, everything that we need to know, everything that is worth knowing about the universe comes to us from the physical sciences. In the last 50 years, there have been many efforts by many physicalists to try to advance this view of philosophy. So if you believe in this view, then you believe that everything in the universe, including even our conscious experiences, can ultimately be reduced to facts and information that come from the physical sciences. So if you believe in this view, then you will basically believe that the thoughts that I'm having right now, the feelings that I'm having right now, can ultimately be expressed in terms of some kind of scientific knowledge, whether it is whether it's in terms of physics, chemistry, or biology. Now, and this view actually has become very influential in recent years. However, not everybody, excuse me, I'm having a cold right now, so, but okay. However, not everybody is convinced by this view. One of the papers that you are reading this week is this paper by Thomas Nagel titled "What Is It Like to Be a Bat?" And Nagel believes that their conscious experience, by its very nature, cannot be reduced to scientific or physical explanations. So he believes that no amount of physical explanation can capture the subjective character of lived experience. Or in other words, no amount of physical explanation can capture what it is like of lived experience. So to give you an example, let's use a rather mundane experience that we all can probably relate to, listening to music. So Nagel's view is that no amount of physical explanation can capture what it is like for a conscious being to listen to music if you have never listened to music before. So to use a rather mundane example, suppose I tell you that I really enjoy listening to Katy Perry. Now, if you understand what I'm saying, whether or not you agree with me, but if you at least understand what I'm saying, you can understand what I'm saying because even if you haven't heard Katy Perry before, you have at least listened to music, so you understand what it is like to enjoy a piece of music. You have some idea. You have some idea of the kind of subjective experience that is involved in consciously enjoying a piece of music. Now, imagine again. Imagine that now there is an alien from outer space, and this alien is very intelligent, but he's deaf. So he's been deaf. Well, maybe he's deaf because he comes from a race that have no ears. He comes from a race that do not have the sense of hearing. So that race, they have other ways of enjoying themselves, but they don't listen to music because they can't. So imagine that I were to meet this alien who doesn't hear at all, and I were to explain to him what it is like to enjoy listening to Katy Perry. I may be able to explain the experience of listening to music or Katy Perry in physical or scientific terms. For example, I may be able to give him certain charts of my of what my heart rate is like when I listen to music that I like. He may be able to look at certain readings of my brain state when I am in the state when I'm in the state of listening to music. Maybe when I'm listening to music, he could attach some electrodes to my head and see what kinds of brain states I'm having. And you can easily think of all kinds of examples, scientific examples. Maybe you can even find ways and means to monitor my nervous system when I'm listening to music. So, but even if he can even if he does all that, even if he has all this exhaustive scientific knowledge of what goes on in me when I'm listening to music, there is still a very good case for saying that he doesn't know what it is like to listen to music, because because he doesn't have the perceptual and the conceptual apparatus to know what it is like to listen to music. And this is what Nagel is saying. Nagel is saying that there is something about conscious lived experience which is such that unless you have had that kind of lived experience, conscious experience before, no amount of scientific explanation will ever be able to explain what it is like to have that kind of conscious experience. So, on the same note, Nagel actually uses a more drastic example. So, we can understand I can understand what it is like for another person to enjoy a piece of music, even if I don't agree with his musical taste. So, you can, for example, you can understand what it is like for me to enjoy listening to Katy Perry, even if you don't like Katy Perry. But suppose we are talking about a kind of being that has a kind of experience that we simply don't have the conceptual or perceptual apparatus to understand. So the example that Nagel uses is the example of a bat. So as you probably know, bats are almost blind. They can fly around because they are when they are flying, they actually emit this high frequency shriek from their mouths, and the echo, they use the echo from the sounds that they make to as a kind of sonar to detect things in their environment. So they can basically fly without bumping into things because they use the sonar to, it's kind of like an ultrasound kind of thing. They use the sonar to detect the presence of things in the environment. So the term for this is echolocation. So Nagel's point is that we would never be able to know what it is like to be a bat, because we do not echolocate. We make sounds, obviously, but we don't use the sounds to. We have never been. We are not the sorts of beings that use the sounds to help us to fly. So Nagel's view is that no amount of physical explanation can explain what it is like to be a bat, because we are not bats and we can never have bat-like experiences. Now, so there is an interesting point here. You see, first we have the gap between two people who are listening, who have different tastes about music. So if I have a different taste in music from you, you can still understand. You can still understand what it is like for me to have that kind of taste in music, even if you don't agree with my taste. So you can still, to a certain extent, understand what it is like to enjoy listening to Katy Perry, even if you do not like Katy Perry. And even in this case, there is a bit of a separation between your conscious experience and mine. Because you are not me, you will never know exactly what it is about being me that makes me like Katy Perry. But however, because you are the type of being who also listens to music, you can at least use your imagination to try to imagine what it will be like to listen to Katy Perry. However, in the case of in the case of trying to know what it is like to be a bat, Nagel's point is that no matter even our imagination would fail us when we try to imagine what it is like to be a bat. I mean, it's not going to be helpful if I try to imagine that I'm webbing on my arms and I fly and I can fly and that I'm almost blind, and that I locate things by making all kinds of high frequency noises, or that I sleep by hanging upside down on some kind of tree. None of this is going to help, because I'm still imagining things from the point of view of a being who's not a bat. I don't have the concepts to get the experience, to get what it is like to be a bat. Whereas I think I at least have the concepts to get what it is like to enjoy a certain piece of music, even if I don't actually enjoy it. So Nagel's view is that there are certain things, there are certain kinds of conscious experiences that are so far from our conceptual limitations as human beings that it is impossible for us to ever know what it is like to be that kind of being. So of course, this all comes back to Nagel's general point that physicalism is wrong. Because physicalism, as we recall, is the view that everything that can be known through the physical sciences. And that is not true, especially when it comes to bats. I mean, we can dissect bats, we have done so, I'm sure. You can dissect a bat, take apart its anatomy, study its anatomy really closely, study its physiology really closely, and you still wouldn't, after all this close study, you still wouldn't know what it is like to be a bat that echolocates. So there is a certain kind of knowledge, according to Nagel. According to Nagel, there is a certain kind of knowledge, namely the knowledge of what it is like to be a certain kind of being, that cannot be captured by the physical sciences. So, and this kind of knowledge, the what it is like kind of knowledge, is knowledge that is unique to conscious experience. So Nagel's point of view again is that certain things simply cannot be captured. Certain important kinds of knowledge simply cannot be captured by the physical sciences. And if certain kinds of knowledge cannot be captured by the physical sciences, then obviously physicalism is wrong, because physicalism says that everything that is important and that can be known through the sciences. So before I leave you, I want to end with something that you might find interesting. So besides this video, I'm going to post another video on Moodle this week. This other video I'm going to post is a video of this blind man who has actually trained himself to actually echolocate. So by making a certain kind of clicking sound with his tongue, he's able to actually use the echo from that clicking sound to actually locate to pinpoint the location of objects in his environment. And he has done it so well that he's able to actually ride a bicycle, like any normal human being. So one question that you might want to think about is, does this blind man know what it is like to be a bat? Well, I'll give you my personal answer. My answer is no. He only knows what it is like to be a blind man who has trained himself to echolocate. So he has at least maybe one thing that is a little bit similar to being a bat, but I would say that he still doesn't know what it is like to be a bat. So anyway, you might disagree with me, but if you do, feel free to write to me or talk to me or whatever. But I'll leave you with this, and please do the readings if you haven't already done so. Now watch that other video of the blind man who is echolocating, and have fun. Thank you very much.